We are on to Warlock. Now we have Keli'dan the Breaker. 6 cost, 3/3, Battlecry, destroy minion. If drawn this turn, instead destroy all minions except this one. Bonfire. Bonfire the Damned. Really? Really? It still hurts, you know. It still hurts. For any of you who aren't familiar, Miracle's mechanic in Magic the Gathering that was, if you drew something this turn, you can reveal it and have a bonus effect. In 2012, I was playing in an elimination match in the World Magic Cup against the team from Taiwan. And I was going to win the game the next turn, and my opponent drew Bonfire the Damned. There's actually a GIF online. If you look up Kibler Bonfire GIF, it is one of the most classic moments in Magic history, that probably the moment that has been gifified the most. Go look it up. It's worth it. But anyway, this is very similar. This is the right moment, the right time. It does a huge amount of powerful stuff. It is really interesting that this not only works with, like, okay, I drew this card the perfect time. We're losing for Plot Twist Warlock. We're losing Dorian, right? Dorian's going away. So you lose a lot of the power of that deck. I believe Betrug also goes away. I'm looking up what set he's in. I think he's gone too. No, he isn't. Okay, Betrug's still around. So we're losing Dollmaster Dorian in Plot Twist, so you lose one of the powerful tools for the Plot Twist deck. This, however, is another way you could possibly use Plot Twist. You can Plot Twist, if you're in a kind of desperate position, Plot Twist into Keli'dan the Breaker, clear the board. And it by itself, it's just not a bad card, right? It's just 6 cost, 3/3, kill a minion. That's fine, but having the ability to Desperation Plot Twist into it, or just happen to draw it and be like, you know what? Boom! Or, life tapping, boom! Draw it, getcha. Pretty powerful. I think this sort of mechanic is cool. I think that specifically the fact that this is not necessarily a 100% positive effect, right? This isn't just like Bonfire the Damned, which, you drew it and you're like, well, of course I'll Miracle my Bonfire. You didn't always do it. But, it universally is just negative for your opponent and positive for you. This can be negative for you. If you have a board state, you draw this and you're like, I don't actually want to kill everything, so I'm not going to play it. But yeah, I think it's a cool card. I like the mechanic, and I think that it is, something that you can easily see play, just because 6 cost minion, kill a minion is totally a reasonable thing. And then the miracle effect of destroying everything else is going to come up, I'm sure. The miracle effect of killing all other minions, I think, is going to come up enough that we're going to have some awesome Trollden videos and stories about this card. Next up, we have Unstable Fellbolt. 1 cost, deal 3 damage to an enemy minion and a random friendly one. So my guess is that you can play this with no minions and just deal 3 to an enemy minion for 1 mana, which is pretty powerful, right? If you have no minions, deal 3 to an enemy minion. If you're just like a slow control-y deck, just like 1 cost, boom, kill your guy. As long as you don't have your own minions, or you have minions that you want to hit yourself, it's actually pretty good. Like if you have like Death Rattle things, right? This is basically like a Holy Smite, which is now actually, I think, a pretty powerful card. But it's worth noting that this is in Warlock. Warlock is a class that gets worse cards in general because it has life tap. So it also typically has relatively poor early game board control options. If you look at a lot of the cards historically in Warlock, it's hard to like control the board early on. This feels like it can very easily go into like a Dark Sky style control deck that doesn't really want to have much of a board early, and you can just use this to help kill your opponent's things in the early game and try to preserve your life total so you can life tap into stuff. So I think this is a totally solid card overall, and I actually do expect this to see play, even if it might look like a fairly poor card. I think that situationally it's very powerful, and the right deck, it's almost universally just like kill a minion early on for 1 mana. Next we have Hand of Gul'dan. When you play or discard this, draw 3 cards for 6. This is obviously, a powerful synergy card with any of the self-discard stuff like Soulfire or one of the, there's, some of the cards that we're going to be, showing here. Like a very zoo-ish style of card. I think this card is actually pretty good. A lot of those decks, the zoo style decks, don't really necessarily want to be like life tapping, and all the time. They can, but if you have the ability to fill up your hand, it's one of the reasons that like the Outland Warlock decks, I think that the 5/4, whatever its name is, that draws 3 cards, is powerful even though you're playing a deck that already has life tap. So card draw is generally less powerful than it otherwise might be. I think it's just a totally reasonable card. You can use it with like, if you really want to Expired Merchant. I don't think you really want to Expired Merchant this because you don't want a bunch of them, but you can just like churn through your deck and absolutely just fatigue yourself pretty easily. That's basically what happened during the reveal stream with Crip. He Expired Merchant Hand of Gul'dan and just entered a bunch of Hand of Gul'dans and actually just like went through his entire deck and fatigued out. I don't think that deck was necessarily optimally built. I think there's going to be ways that you can build a deck that uses Hand of Gul'dan pretty efficiently, and you can end up basically just playing a zoo deck that doesn't even necessarily have to life tap, and I think that's actually a pretty strong thing. Granted, the lack of Doomguard does make those decks a little bit less compelling, and the fact that Galakrond itself is so strong that you don't necessarily want to be playing that style of zoo deck rather than playing Galakrond. So maybe there just isn't enough space in the metagame for it right now, but I feel like this is a card that's going to see constructed play at some point. Next up, we have Nightshade Matron, aka the way you discard your Hand of Gul'dan. This is a 4-cost 5/5 rush. Discard your highest cost card. The highest cost part makes it very easy in a low to the ground aggressive deck to discard Hand of Gul'dan with this. So you end up, refilling your hand, drawing extra cards, and getting to rush into your opponent's minions. Obviously, this is no Doomguard, right? Like this isn't a minion that can go face and end the game, which is, kind of a sad thing for an aggressive deck that would much rather do that than just trading your opponent's minions. But this is still powerful. This can still rush down a taunt minion, give you board control to allow your other minions to actually get the job done. And it's a 4-cost 5/5. Even if you're not necessarily using the rush effect, just it's a big body that you get in the board and just pressure your opponent while discarding hopefully Hand of Gul'dan and refilling your hand. So I think this is a pretty strong card overall, and I think will be a cornerstone card if these discard Warlock decks exist. Next up, we have the Dark Portal, aka a lot worse than Mountain Giant, but it's what we got now. 4-cost, draw a minion. If you have at least 8 cards in hand, it costs 5 less. This is definitely an interesting card for like big hand style Warlock decks. It's certainly not going to be as powerful as Mountain Giant is, but you also just don't need to have quite as many cards in hand in order to get it. So you can use this with, you don't have to actually just tap with this. You can tap and then play this, right? If you're on the draw, at least. If you don't play anything else. If you tap going first and play this on 4, you draw. Am I right? Yeah. But on the draw, you can tap. You can't tap, play something, and then play this and still draw. This could go in like Quest Warlock. I don't think you want to play it in Quest Warlock because maybe you play this in Quest Warlock so you can actually like line up. You can possibly even like line up like a cheap copy of a cheap copy of Betrog to go with your plot twist. One of the big problems with plot twist Warlock is that you lose Elec, so you don't really have the option of playing like long fatiguey type games. You could possibly play this in a very spell heavy Warlock deck and play this with like Malygos and not really play very many minions and look to Dark Portal into Malygos to end up getting a cheap Malygos to just burn your opponent out. You could also play this with like you could play this and only have Jiraxxus in your deck and just aim to play Jiraxxus on turn 5, and then you'll die to any deck that has Zephyrus every single time, but it would be cool. I do think that this is, a powerful card. It feels like You know, being able to either ramp into a big thing to do on like turn or 5 or 6, or just, you know, draw something you can play like a 5-drop or whatever right away is powerful. But you definitely want to play this in a deck that doesn't have that many cheap minions, because you want to get value off of the cost reduction. So that leads me to want to play this in a deck with, like, say, the Unstable Fellbolt and Dark Skies, and then just big stuff for the late game. Next up is Enhanced Dreadlord, a 8-cost 5/7 taunt with Death Rattle, summon a 5/5 Dreadlord with Lifesteal. This is a pretty good card to bring through the Dark Portal. You through the Dark Portal on 4, you play this, your opponent kills it, you have a 5/5 life-stealing demon. This is, you know, exactly the sort of thing that I feel like that sort of early game, you know, big hand style deck is looking for. So, you know, this I don't think necessarily fits into, you know, like traditional Control Warlock. Maybe this goes into a like a Control Warlock type shell, just because, you know, the 5/5 life steal is a really big deal. 5/7 taunt for 8 is okay. I think more than anything, this is most likely to be a extremely powerful card to come off of Galakrond. That and the Dark Portal are the only ways I really see probably playing this. It is interesting with Betrug. If you like Betrug plot twist this or something, you end up just getting a 5/7 that can attack into something, and you get a 5/5 life still after the fact. But I don't really expect this card to see that much play naturally. Next up is Imprisoned Scrap Imp. 2-cost 3/3 demon, dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, give all minions in your hand +2/+2. Sadly, this is just in time for Hyreek to leave, so we're not going to be able to get Imprisoned Scrap Imps buffing Hyreeks. We can't even get Hyreek off of Banner Smosh anymore. Hyreek just never really had its time to shine. I don't really know where this goes. You know, there's the Shadow Council card, which we'll get to in a second. Maybe you're just playing a bunch of demons and then you're Shadow Canceling, you know, to give them +1, you know, set up to get your Shadow Cancel to go off, and then Scrap Imp and get a hand full of just gigantic buff demons. I don't know. There aren't really that many cards in Warlock that specifically want to be hand buffed. There's like things that copy themselves or anything like that. So I feel like this is, I don't know. Obviously, giving your hand +2/+2 is very powerful, right? In general, but a lot of what Zoo style decks tend to want to do is play to the board and get control of the board. And, you know, do you have enough like rush style minions, charge style minions to come back from losing control of the board because you played a dormant minion early on? I don't know. Hard to say. This is a very powerful effect. Giving your hand +2/+2 is extremely strong, but it's delayed, and it's, you know, giving up early game tempo, which is something that at least Zoo style decks really don't want to do. So I'm not really feeling very excited about this card. Is finding a home right now. Next up, we have the card I was just talking about, Shadow Council. Replace your hand with random demons, give them +2/+2. So this is what you're doing. You get the Imprisoned Scrap Imp, you play it, and then you Shadow Council right before the Scrap Imp is going to come up, and then you have a handful of demons with +4/+4. I don't know. This card feels pretty bad to me, obviously. Like random demons. There's a lot of really bad random demons, but maybe you just play this. This is like kind of like a Renounced Darkness, right? Obviously not nearly as extreme as a Renounced Darkness, but if you get like you know, decent demons, like +2/+2 in your hand is powerful, right? And Warlock can obviously like build a big hand with like life tap and stuff like that. Solarium is rotating out, so you can't like Solarium into Shadow Council. But I don't know. I feel like this is probably just like, you know, not really a powerful card. Because obviously random demons, there's a lot of really bad random demons. And you can't really guarantee that you can curve it all. How are you, like, when are you playing this? Are you planning to like life tap into this, play this in like turn like 5, and then start playing out stuff, hoping you get like, you know, rushers or whatever. I don't know. Feels kind of weak to me, but it certainly seems like the sort of card that can lead to some pretty crazy games. So I'm sure I'll try it at least once. Next up is Dark Glare, a 3-cost 3/4 demon. Your hero takes damage, refresh 2 mana crystals. Obviously, this just makes life tap free. You just get to life tap and get your mana crystals back for it, which is like by itself just really good. The fact, you know, that alone is powerful with this. It's a demon, which is relevant for you know, getting off of Shadow Council, I guess. Any ways that you can like damage yourself during your turn, you can like play this with like Rain of Fire and gain mana. You could play this with like the, what is it, Narset Thrasher? Is that the name of that card? No, it's not Narset. What is it called? Narset is, what are the other what's the name of the vulture in Hearthstone? Disease Vulture. Is that even rotating? It is from Saviors. No. What is it? Neferset. You could play this in a deck with like Neferset Thrasher and Disease Vulture, and you know, just there are a bunch of like self-damage cards in Warlock that I can imagine using this with to like build a deck that's like essentially cheating mana pretty frequently. You can Flame Imp, get mana back. Obviously, you're doing a lot of damage to yourself, but gaining like a pretty significant tempo advantage in the early turns, most of the mid turns, because obviously this is a 3/3, feels like you can do a lot to get a pretty significant advantage. Like imagine coining out Neverset Thrasher, then playing this on 3. Attacking with the Thrasher, getting 2 mana back, life tapping, then playing a Flame Imp, then playing another one of these. Then there's just a lot you can do, right? Crystallizer. I feel like this is a card that has a lot of potential options, and Shiro is very excited about it. What? What? Shiro, I still have Warlock to finish. Then I have Warrior, and then I have Neutrals. Come here. Come here. Come over here. Come over here. Come on. Come here. Shiro, you need to let me finish. Can I finish my review? Please? Please? I'll give you treats after I finish. Okay? All right. And lastly, in Warlock, we have Kendrathaad Ebonlock, a 2-cost 3/2. Your demons cost 1 less. Death Rattle summon Kendrathaad Prime into your deck. This is an interesting card. The Prime is an 8-cost 7/6 with summon 3 friendly demons that died this game. Feels like the sort of card that is obviously fairly strong in like a Zoo style deck. In itself, you can like play free Flame Imps. Obviously, no more like Doomguard to bring back in the Gul'dan mode of just explode your opponent. But I feel like this is just like a totally reasonable card to put into most zoo decks because they have a decent number of demons already, and to get discounted and then bring back as just like this pretty cheap way to just reload your board. It feels a lot like the Murloc one, which I talked about, where it doesn't really cost too much to put in your deck. It's a totally reasonable effect that gives you in an aggressive deck the ability to reload the board and have a powerful thing later on that you don't risk drawing in your opening hand and like disrupting your curve. So I feel like this guy's going to see play in probably most zoo style decks while it's legal in the format. And that's Warlock.